Okay, now that we have prepared our environment and Eclipse and BBJ and everything is installed, we can write our first Hello World program. So I went ahead and opened the Eclipse folder where I unpacked my Eclipse and installed it in the last video, and double click and start. And for convenience, what I'm going to do is I reuse the Eclipse workspace proposed here. As soon as the icon appears in the taskbar, I'm going to pin the taskbar icon so that next time I have easier access to my Eclipse. So now we see BDT Explorer on the left. So this is where your projects will live, and we will see the BBJ installation. If you do not see this, go back to the first video where I explain how to set up Eclipse and make sure to set it up like you see it here. And remember, whenever you see your screen messed up, make sure that the BDT perspective is open. This is here the icon with the 3 blocks, or go to Window, Perspective, Open Perspective, Other, BDT. And if things are still messed up, go to Window, Perspective, Reset Perspective, and everything will be fresh and good. So now we start our first project. I right click here and say New, say BBJ Project. So this is what we're going to do. BBJ Project. We leave the default location for this demo inside, and we call our project name Tutorial. You are, of course, free to call it whatever you like. Just remember how you called it. I will call it Tutorial for you. And now I right click again on the tutorial, say New, and choose BBJ source file. And here I just call it Hello World, because this is what we're going to do. So you see Eclipse comes with a template coming with some comments. To get a better overview, I remove these comments for now. And here's where we can start typing. So BBJ is, as a language, a little similar to VB, Python, maybe a little bit of Java. And so there are certain commands which are very basic-ish. For instance, there's an MSG box command, which we're going to use for our hello world. We say A equals MSG box, and then between parentheses and double quotes, we just say hello world. So what this is going to do, it's going to execute a message box for us, and then executes the program. And when we're done, we need to also terminate the BBJ interpreter again. And this is done using the verb release. So that's the long form, but I will always use for later on a shorter one, which we call by. And this will mean that after the message box has been confirmed, it will come back with a return value, which is, if I don't give any parameters, always the OK return value. So there's no use in querying the A. And then we just terminate the program. So I save this. You see I hit Control S and the little asterisk disappears. There's also the diskette symbols on the top left where you can save your file. And then I just right click here and say Run as BBJ program, or I could just go ahead and hit the green button up here, which also runs the program. Let's do that. And you see there is a little console window popping up. In one of the later sessions, I will give you more information about what's about with this console window, but we see our little message box here. It says hello world. I hit OK, and then everything disappears again. So that's fancy. We have our first hello world program. And as a hint, if you want to read about the statements and everything that you can use, there is a plugin that links you directly to the documentation. So I go to Window, Show View, Other, and then among the BBJ utilities that you had installed, there's the BBJ Keyword Help plugin, which is great for getting direct information from the documentation. So here we have the BBJ Keyword Help view now. And if you want to read more about the message box verb, just put the cursor on it. And you see here, sometimes you see 2 topics, so maybe you want to visit both. one of them, just double click, you see here the MessageBox function, which we just used. So I will explain in a separate video a little more about keyword help and other useful utilities. But for now, this is sufficient. So you have your first Hello World program written, and we have started it in GUI. And now I show you how to start a program in BUI. And there is this little spiderweb icon on the top left here, and you can just hit it. And what happens now is that BBJ will start your program in the browser. You see there is an embedded web browser in Eclipse, which is configured by default. And here's my little message box. And I can also go ahead and harvest that URL by copying it. I open my favorite browser, paste it here in the URL bar, and you see here's our little first browser-based program with BBJ. So you have now learned that the same programs, at least those that we're going to write in the beginning, will run with the same source code in the browser and as well in the GUI environment.